Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Storytime with the Anthony KT Blackout Edition. We are back with a brand new year and all new episodes. And today, I would like to share with you a part of a chapter from My Life in a Nutshell, which is a story about my life, which is available now. Um, and the story that I am currently working on right now is called How the World Sees Me. And the idea of how the world sees me really comes from the inspiration of this chapter from My Life in a Nutshell. That's called Being Proud. And Being Proud is a chapter about me being proud of who I am as someone who is biracial, being both black and white, and someone who is Jewish. And as a kid, I always saw that as a curse, someone who was stuck in purgatory, being biracial, being mixed, not black enough for the black kids or not white or Jewish enough for those kids, kind of being stuck in the middle, always having that having that worry that I wasn't ever going to have friends to play with, which fortunately changed over time. Um, but how the world sees me, the inspiration for that comes from this chapter. And what I'm going to read to you, it's part after being called the N word for the first time at 2 years old. And it was this random guy. I was walking with my mom in our neighborhood in Glen Ellen, and I think I was like 2 years old, so it was about like 80, 85, around 85, 86. And my mom and I were just out taking a walk, and this guy calls me the N word. I'm not gonna say it, but he calls me the N word, and he calls my mom. He calls my mom an N word lover. Um, and instead of finishing the walk, we just came right home, and I remember the look. I remember the look on my dad's face when my mom would tell him what happened, and the anger he had on his face. And as a kid, I had no idea what that word meant. But I at that age, I still understood, even though I didn't know what the word meant, I understood that it was a bad word and how much it hurt. And I remember crying a lot after being called that and being scared. Even though I didn't really have an understanding of that word until later in life when my dad started having these talks with me. And throughout my life, we would have different versions of these talks, and each version of these talks was based on the age I am and how he was preparing me to get into the world. So what I'm gonna start at a point where it first sentence is it was a few years later, and that's where I'm gonna start. So we're just gonna dive right in. It was a few years later when I was called that name again at school, when my father sat me down and started he and started what he what would be many talks in the course of my growing up. One of the first times we sat down and had the talk, he said to me, "Just because you're mixed doesn't mean people will see you as mixed. There are only solid colors in this world, son. You know you're mixed, but the world will see you as black." That's what my dad said to me many times as I was growing up. When he told me that, it wasn't to scare me. He was preparing me for the world. There have always been little changes in the world, but the big changes take a long time to happen. Sometimes they don't happen at all, and a number of people move on and forget. But the ones that stick around are the ones that continue to fight, to make big changes. My dad would tell me stories of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, how these men were fighting for big changes. He would tell me stories of being a kid and seeing signs for bathrooms that said whites only or colored only. The names he was called, the kind of people that almost killed him for just being a kid playing with his friends. My dad always told me what he felt was enough. I was 6 years old when my dad first talked to me about being mixed wasn't going to matter in the world, how people were going to see me as one color. As a kid, he wanted me to know what I was and be proud of it, but there are always two sides to every coin. And my father wanted me to know on the other side of that coin is the world and how the world will see me. My father never was fully detailed with stories from his life. It was always what he felt was enough. For him, having to relive those days in the 40s, 50s, and 60s was something I could see even as a 6-year-old was hard for him to do. That day, that talk made me want to learn more. That was when I really got into Black history and Judaism, wanting to learn about both of my cultures. Where my people came from, how they came to America, and the fighting they had to do to get a piece of the so-called American dream. And that, my friends, is how we come back to Storytime with the Anthony KT Blackout Edition. And that is really this chapter, Being Proud. It's the inspiration to what I am writing called How the World Sees Me, my new story. I wanted to really share that with you as we come back to Storytime with the Anthony KT Blackout Edition. And that's what I wanted to share with you, and I'm glad I did. And there will be more episodes in the future of Storytime with the Anthony KT as we move forward in this new year. For now, I'm just going to say until the meantime, actually, in the meantime and in between time, I'll see you on the next one, y'all. Peace.